Hello everybody on YouTube. It has been a while since I've recorded anything for this YouTube channel, since probably the summer releases of last year. Of course, I always intend to get round to a couple of other things. I always intend to get round to that Batman and Robin review I promised 3 years ago, and the other X-Men movies and stuff like that. But it's just a case of, literally, I have it in the back of my head, and then I'm like, procrastinating, and I hold it off and I hold it off and I hold it off, and before I know it, it's been 6 months, it's been a year, it's been far too long. But what I do have to do is come on here and talk about the summer movies, obviously, so you guys can get my thoughts, because obviously, as you guys know from my channel, I'm a Marvel Studios fan, I'm a fan of superheroes, I'm a fan of comics, and I'm also a fan of Star Trek, so I'm going to go ahead and review those two, and my first one I'm going to talk about is Iron Man 3, which I did see last week. I know it was out a week ahead, just like Star Trek was, but I didn't get around to seeing it until last week, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great, fun, comedy action movie. I laughed where I was supposed to laugh, I was excited when I was supposed to be excited. The problems that came up was as soon as you started thinking about the movie, and for me, the twists and the turns and the trying to be clever almost got in the way. I don't know whether I would have preferred a straight up movie as we were thinking the movie was going to be. Certainly I think a lot of maybe fans out there will be happier, but I've heard a lot of people, from diehards to everything, be very happy with it. So I think they got away with doing something different while at the same time pleasing everybody, because I don't think there are that many people out there who are connected to the Mandarin character. So I don't think people minded that much. Obviously, I'm not going to get into spoilers at this point, but I'll talk about that in a second. I thought that Robert Downey Jr. was the glue that held the film together. As always, he was obviously the most fun. His one-liners, his quips, his character. I did like the whole emotional breakdown, the fact he was dealing with consequences from the Avengers movie, and the fact that the movie, in a lot of ways, was a post-Avengers film. It was like, okay, the world has changed now, so we can't go back to just him fighting, whoever. Of course, the big problem there is, where are the Avengers? Why didn't they show up? Why didn't S.H.I.E.L.D. show up and all that kind of stuff? But at the same time, you can almost think that all the movies, the solo movies, are going to be happening at the same time, so they're all off doing their own stuff. At the end of the day, the only questions that come to mind are the same questions you get when you read a comic book doing this, and they've been doing it for 50 years, so. I really liked how Pepper was kind of used in this. I do, to a point, agree with people who say that she should stay in the kind of administrative role, but if they are going to go towards rescue or something like that, of that nature, or if they just wanted to get her more involved and not be the stereotypical damsel in distress, I thought this was the right way to go. I think with the whole extremist thing and the drug right there to make a super soldier, why the hell not have her go and do it? Of course, we don't get to see her in the armour that much, but, to me and a lot of other people, Stark should be the only one in that armour, and I think that is where some of the problems arise when you get into spoilerific territory, which I will get into now. So I warn you, right now, spoilers from this point forward. It's been out for 2 weeks, so if you haven't seen it, go and watch it, and come back when you've seen the movie. Okay, so the big one, the Mandarin twist, and this is the one that everybody's been talking about. What do you think? Do you think they crapped on the character? Do you think they did it right because this character couldn't really be done? Apparently the reason this character was even not an Asian actor or anything like that, I think the reason that was because apparently they were trying to please Chinese audiences, and apparently they've got a big, money market in China right now with the Marvel movies, so they didn't want to mess that up by having a stereotypical Asian character with a Fu Manchu, with his 10 rings and his mystical powers, and basically being, the stereotypical wise old sage kind of villain. They didn't want that happening, and I can see, definitely, in a way, the Mandarin is definitely a stereotype. Chinese dragon beard going on. Yeah, absolutely, I can see why they did that. In terms of the character, I'm not really familiar with Iron Man comics. I'm not really familiar with the Mandarin. I only know him as he's supposed to be this big bad villain of Iron Man, but to me, in the realistic, quote unquote, world they set up, the grounded nature of the Iron Man movies, even though all this other stuff has happened, even in the Thor movie, they sort of made the line that it's not really magic, it's technology and magic, and that kind of thing, and they made the Norse gods aliens, so in a lot of ways they made it more grounded and scientific in that movie as well. So in order to do that, they would have to go out of the realms of possibility, or they obviously have the Mandarin rings be something from Asgard, I guess. But they didn't want to go that far, so I had no problem with that in terms of a choice. I'm not attached to the character, so I didn't mind the fact that they weren't faithful to the original character. And at the end of the day, they did kind of do the Ra's al Ghul, Ra's al Ghul plot from Batman Begins, where they had the big reveal of he's the real bad guy, and he's the real Mandarin. At the end, he's like, I am the Mandarin, he gets the dragon tattoos, and yeah, we get that. Okay. So, if he's the real Mandarin, I did hear someone say that maybe he should have been played by an Asian actor, but I think maybe that would have been the case, and you would have got more of a Ra's al Ghul type thing, where Liam Neeson blatantly looks more like Ra's al Ghul than obviously Ken Watanabe did. So I think that's what they were going. I think they would have gone for that had it not been for this, business concern about Chinese audiences and about not having that Chinese stereotype. Apparently there's a version of the movie out there where they're going to have 4 more minutes or something like that, where they're going to have a subplot involved with this Chinese doctor who's responsible for taking the iron heart out of Tony. Speaking of which, that was my biggest problem with the film. Not only did he get rid of the art reactor, but also at the end of the movie, it was in montage. It wasn't like, oh, this big deal that he's finally getting rid of this thing that's been the entire focus of the last 3 movies. Now he's getting rid of it, and it's just, oh yeah, by the way, I got my art reactor taken out. Oh, okay. And then he's chucking it off and then saying, I am Iron Man, and apparently the original line was, I am Tony Stark, but it didn't test well with audiences and all that stuff. But to me, I do have a problem with him continuing to be Iron Man if he's not going to have the art reactor. There's a little bit of me that's like, about that. But even in this movie, there was that problem where we thought that the art reactor was the power for his suit, but somehow his suit can lose power. And also, where is Jarvis? He's implied that he's in the Mark 42 suit, but yeah, he can activate all those other suits that were just there for the big moment where he reveals the giant 40 suits at the end. So is Jarvis in a computer in the underground of Stark's house? In that case, did he just need the Mark 42 to be active so he could talk to Jarvis? And of course, I said the art reactor is supposed to be the power for the suit, so how come the suit can lose power? Yeah, that was a problem for me. It was kind of a convenience just for the sake of setting up what they wanted to do with the plot. But back to what I was talking about in terms of the art reactor being taken out, I think this was another Iron Man 2 moment. They want to have an out in case Downey doesn't resign. So in that way, I understand it. I will be disappointed, of course, if War Machine is the focus of he's going to be in Avengers 2. I think that Marvel and Disney would be stupid to not re-sign Downey Jr. I think they'd be even dumber to recast Tony Stark. So for me, obviously that's a necessity if it happens, but I don't think the amount of money that Downey and the studio are making off, what have been the 2 most successful, most popular superhero films of all time, it looks like, with Avengers and Iron Man 2, I don't think they won't re-sign Downey, so I don't think that's a worry, but I do think this ending was an out, just in case he does not want to re-sign. And of course you have the thing at the end, Tony Stark will return. Some people are saying maybe it's going to be him in an Oracle role, I don't know, but no, I think Avengers 2, a good portion of that will be him deciding to put the armor back on, and then he'll just pilot it in the same way that Rhodey pilots it, except without the art reactor. And then they can have a plot where it loses power, and it'd make more sense. But of course, that sets up the whole middle portion of the movie where he goes to this town, and he's with this little kid, and this kid helps him and all this stuff and takes care of the armor and he helps the kid out. I did think that the kid was better than most kid actors. I did think he played with Downey well. I did laugh at his lines with the kid where he's like, yeah, just don't be a pussy, I'm leaving, bye. Those kind of things were funny. But I did groan a bit at the child psychic. I did groan at the down-to-earth kind of, let's get him back to his roots as a mechanic. That's kind of cool, but at the same time, it's kind of, here we go. It just seemed a little cliched to me, but, that was this movie. Then you go ahead and go into the climax, where you have the big fight, and then all the stuff, all the character progression, all the panic attacks, everything has just been tossed away, and now it's just the big bad fight. I didn't ever believe the Pepper was dead, where I don't know why she didn't turn around afterwards and go, what the fuck, you said you were going to catch me, but you didn't, you said, I promise you I will catch you, and I fell. Go to hell, Tony, but that's never brought up, because of course she had Extremist, and I knew she had Extremist, I knew it as soon as she fell, they didn't linger on it long enough for her to be really dead. Then of course she comes back and she gets to save the day, which was a nice point. Then Tony of course decides to blow up all of his armours and all that stuff. Story-wise, the climax, a lot of the threads of the movie, a lot of the story kind of was tossed aside for an action beat and all that kind of stuff. But it was fun. I just think this movie falls apart whenever you think about it, and I do think they should have kept it a little more straightforward than they did. I did enjoy the twist, but at the same time, I think after Avengers, I think people wanted just a straight-up Iron Man versus bad guy plot, and if you were going to do a dark version and where he gets all his stuff destroyed, to me what you do is you have it so that the arc reactor's damaged and he's cut off from everybody, and then he has to rebuild a suit from scratch, not have all these 40 suits waiting for him so he can have this big climax. It just seemed a little off, and it was like two movies were merged into one here with me. But yeah, I still think Iron Man 1's the best of the three. I think that this one had some conflicting things with me, and I think it was a little bit of a dumb movie. I don't think it worked. But none of these movies have been particularly, story-driven. All that kind of stuff. It's always been character-driven, and the plot kind of goes sideways to that and to the action beats. So that's the Marvel movies. So yeah. Alright then, so really that's kind of my general thoughts on Iron Man 3, with a couple of quips in there about plot holes that I found. Other ones that I was thinking as I was watching it was, the 10 rings. Are they working for Killian then? Because the 10 rings were referenced in the first movie. Things like that just didn't make sense to me, but you know what, it's the Mandarin, who cares? We can go on, we can have Tony Stark in a new non-arc powered suit in the next Avengers, and that's what everybody's wanting to see, so yeah. He didn't wreck anything, didn't kill Tony Stark off, so. Alright then, so that will do it for my review of Iron Man 3. Join me in a second for Star Trek Into Darkness, which I have a lot more to say about.